Welcome! This video contains an introduction, an interview so you can gain deeper understanding of the subject from spirit level, and a group frequency calibration so you can start to clear the frequency distortion patterns around this topic. Enjoy! Hi everyone, this is Karen Cheong, and I'm here with my co-host Dennis Kelly. There is an almost overwhelming amount of stories in our world today, all with their own perspectives and agendas. It often seems like there's a whole lot more talking these days than listening. It can be hard to turn down the volume, never mind tune out completely all the toxic information and negativity. Today we're discussing how to detoxify the mind, what the common challenges are, and how once you've done some significant clearing, your mind can function more clearly, sharply, and as the powerful tool it was meant to be. After the discussion, we're going to wrap it up with a group frequency calibration to help you begin to remove the distortion patterns around this topic. So let's dive in. Dennis?
So I'm real curious, Karen, when you talk about detoxing in relation to the mind, I guess most of the detox work that we've done in the past has been kind of focused on the body and all the different ways, the headaches and the chills and, whatever that might be, how the body might respond in regard to detox. Is it similar when you talk about detoxing in the mind?
Yeah, it's similar in the sense that, so when you have detoxification of the body, you have all these things in the body that you may or may not be aware of that are causing your systems to break down on a physical level, okay, or causing you to function less optimally. Okay, so you may not be aware, for example, that you have all this toxicity in your liver or that you have toxicity in your gut or whatever. You just know that you're starting to feel bad, like you're getting symptoms like, eczema or headaches or whatever it is that you're getting, pain, whatever. And when we clear that stuff out, this toxicity that's in the body, which allows our organs or whatever to become clear and to function better, then once that detox process happens, meaning we release the toxicity out of the physical body, then the body starts to self-repair and can function in order to work at a more optimal level, right? So you start to feel better, you get healthier, that type of thing, right? So that's detox of the body, typically. Now, detoxification of the mind is similar in the sense that we may or may not be aware of the toxicity that's happening on the mental level, meaning that we are constantly consuming information that is out there. Okay, there's a lot of story currently right now, a lot of agenda, a lot of information that has a resonance that's very low, okay, that is meant to cause an emotional response that isn't of a higher order. Okay, to inculcate fear or worry or anxiety or anger, whatever it is, okay, and it causes a sense of disempowerment. But what happens is these stories, okay, whether it's coming from whatever you're watching on TV or your digital device, or even through the stories that we tell, filtered through people, right? So family, friends, work colleagues, whatever. These stories that we tell, and we've done a couple of segments on story actually, but these stories to me look like little burrs. You know what I mean? Those little sticky things that you ever go hiking and they stick to your socks or your pants or whatever, and they have little hooks all around them. Stories are kind of like that, especially when they're of a lower resonance. And when they have a lower resonance, not only are they sticking to you, more of them stick to you, and they're heavier in nature, right? So they stick to you, they stick to each other, they kind of start to pile up, right, on each other. So the more story that you accumulate without releasing, the more heavy you become, the more story you attract, the less you can process it out, right? Just like with the body, and the lower and lower your resonance becomes. As a result, your mind starts to become bogged down. It can't function as clearly without all of the story filters that are happening because you've been consuming story from different levels. So yes, in very similarly, what I'm talking about is detoxification of the mind is similar to the body, but it just looks or is caused by something that's different than a physical toxicity.
I don't know where this came from, but the question, as the clearing process takes place, as you go through and do this work, is it body first and then mind, or vice versa, or is it just depend on the individual and the situation and where the distortions or patterns are?
Yeah, it depends on the person. So it depends how firmly entrenched. So you're talking more globally, I think, right? As you release distortion pattern. So as you release distortions, you're correct. It depends on the person. So some people are very mentally oriented, right? And it tends to be there that they get the most stuck, right? So people who often are very smart, who have very strong will, a lot of the toxicity will happen there. But also when it's deep patterns, it will happen at the, they'll be entrenched at the level of the body or the level of the emotion, right? So it happens in various places depending on you, your lineage, your culture, your religion, like all that sort of stuff, right? The frequency bundle that's you is very specific. And so it kind of depends, and where you'll release will be at what level that you will release at really depends on sort of what is priority for you at that particular time. So, yeah.
I'm going to throw you a curveball, Karen, okay?
Sure.
So we talk about kind of the mental, the emotional, and the physical. So we've talked about kind of the detox with the physical, and now we're talking about the detox with the mind. Is there kind of a emotional detox also?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yes. People, it's funny. People will often experience mental and emotional together because a lot of us don't really have just an emotional response. We're not clear enough. So we have an emotion. So for example, right, we've used this example before. It's like someone's cut you off in traffic, right, really severely. And you're angry because they've cut you off and you feel like your life isn't threatened. So you physically feel threatened, right? You have the emotional response of anger and fear. And that's the emotional response. Okay, so you've had that emotional response. However, if it's now like 6-7 hours later or like 2 weeks later and you're still telling the story of that guy who cut you off in traffic and still feeling the anger from it, now it's a mental experience of that emotion, right? It's your mind trying to bring you into that same emotional experience. It's no longer just an emotional experience, right? Which is the emotional response. So oftentimes they're tied together. For most people, it's not. Most people aren't at the level of clarity where they've released enough distortion pattern that their emotion is just being experienced in the present moment just as an emotional response without the mind fostering it, right? Propagating it more. So yes, there is an emotional detox. Some people will emotionally detox for sure, where they have feelings and release them, etc. For some people, they'll need to know the difference between other people's emotions and theirs, so creating a distance between that and themselves. So yes, there is an emotional detox as well. So meaning like knowing when you're taking on other people's stuff and trying to clear it for them, and then release versus releasing your own emotional response. So that does happen. In terms of the mental detox, what happens is this is when you first typically start to encounter frequency work, right? So you're seeing the world primarily from the small s self or the ego mind self, right? So there is a lot of story. There is no greater perspective yet. There is still, you're getting caught in the story that you're hearing around you and that your mind creates in response to that. Right? So it's like that ego mind, smaller S self perspective of the world. So as you release the story, right, of around you and clear it out of you, the resonance of the lower level that you're hearing around you, you start to rise up in terms of your own frequency resonance and start to be able to eventually move into that big S self, or self from spirit, where you see things from a greater perspective and you don't get bogged down as much with the stories and the toxicity that some of them have in terms of the lower, denser vibrational order that they can have and how they can pull us down. So you have a different perspective and it's not as sticky. Like stories can't hook into you as much and cause this like backup or build up in the mind in terms of how it functions, its clarity, that type of thing.
So, I know in other sessions we've talked about how important it is to confirm the removal. So yeah. I'm assuming when we're talking about the mind and mental releasing, it's also important at that point to do the confirmation also.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's in a way, so yes, it's very important. And what it will come up as often is when you'll see kind of like self-talk or thoughts, right? That's when those are the things that you can confirm remove from the mental level. The cool thing is that as you, so we are giving a deep dive on detoxifying the mind to give people a lot more momentum around this, because it's pretty prevalent right now and people are getting really bogged down by all the story and the agenda and everything that's happening right now. So we're offering the deep dive to help give you momentum to keep yourself clear. And what's cool is that as you do that deep dive, or even just the GFC at the end of this particular interview, is that you will start to gain distance from your mind. Okay, so not only will your mind clarify, but you'll gain distance from your mind in the sense of you'll gain distance from your thoughts. So you'll be able to observe them more, observe where they're coming from, how they're being influenced by things that are external to you, if you really want to listen to them. All that stuff happens when you start to remove all these distortion patterns. And that's what I mean by the mind clarifies, because it starts to not be bogged down by all of this like chatter of like, this is important, no, this is important, this is detail, like this person's idea, you know, there's all this chatter that happens when we are bogged down by, even though we may not be aware of it, the resonance of all of this not only story, but quote unquote information that's out there that we're consuming that has all of this lower, denser resonance in it.
And, you know, so you were talking earlier, Karen, about the fact that as we get that clarity, and it's almost like, you know, like on a computer, we're clearing up the drives so that we've got more capacity.
Yeah.
We can be faster, quicker, and, you know, we don't have all this old, you know, patterns and stuff that are just kind of bringing the system down. So, you know, I think one of the things I've noticed is that thoughts come in that before, you know, I don't know if I was open to those thoughts or open up to that realm or open up to that possibility. And so it's like we've cleared the table for, you know, new vibrations, new frequencies, new thoughts, new behaviors, new actions. So
yeah, and I would say that a lot of people, what's wonderful is, as you say, once you clear the drive, right, when you clear out the hard drive, so we're doing a couple of things. One is we're clearing out the hard drive, right, so that you can have space to receive new thoughts, new inspiration. We also increase the capacity of that hard drive. Okay, so meaning that instead of your mind just becoming a driver for you where you're enslaved to your thoughts, because you have distance from it, it becomes more of a tool, right? So when you need to use it, it's very powerful, it's engaged, it's clear, it has capacity. And when you don't, it can be more muted. Right? Now, for some of us, our mind won't stop chattering. A lot of us try to get a totally still mind. It's not required. Okay, your mind is going to chatter at you. So if you do have some mind talking, even if you're having a profound experience, that's just your mind. And you can just tell it at some point, especially as you get stronger, like not now, or not helpful, or whatever it is, so that you can tune it out more or turn down the volume on it a lot more so something greater can happen. So all of that starts to happen, right? When you start to do this work, especially when it's focused like this, as it will be on that deep dive, to, as you say, not only clear out the hard drive, but increase the capacity of the hard drive. So when you're engaging that hard drive, it has a lot more function. Okay? It can have more clarity, which is really cool.
Let me ask you another difficult question, Karen, is when someone comes to you and they're working with you and maybe it's someone that's new, do you get a sense or a feeling like, you know, for this person the challenge is more mental or it's more emotional or it's more physical? Do you get that read, or do you, a distortion is a distortion?
Yeah, I just read the frequency. So I don't necessarily, unless it's required, need to know that to delete it. And I don't need to know that distinction unless it's important for them to know so they can watch for it to confirm remove the pattern. So I might say, if you experience this, don't be surprised. Just be aware that this might happen. Okay. And I'm not predicting it, but just to be aware. So it's not surprising to you and you don't go into a fear space around it. So I might say something like this, but often it doesn't matter what level it comes through as long as the distortion pattern's deleted, right? Because really we're working at the frequency level. That's the level that dictates your physical reality. That's the thing that calls your physical reality to you and creates it, right? So as long as we delete on the frequency level, that's the important thing. And if there's further information or refinement or guidance that person might need, then that will show up just as a natural course of, for example, if we happen to be doing an IFC, and if it isn't showing up because it's not an IFC, it's a group thing, it will show up in your life as something specific that you need to confirm the removal of. So at that point, then you're just going to be in life responding to that, confirming the removal at whatever point that is. And so what level it's at is somewhat less relevant. You're just confirming the removal of it. Really what's important is just releasing it at that point.
Well, I think this whole conversation around detoxing in regard to the mind is kind of exciting, because it's kind of nice to know when you're doing this work, this frequency work, is that it's all inclusive.
Yeah,
and,
it is all inclusive. Yeah.
And whether it is truly mental or emotional or physical, it's clearing the slate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to remember that the lower realms of, as you say, physical, mental, emotional, seem to us as humans like everything, right? Because that's how we perceive the world around us. However, it's very small in terms of what everything is on spirit level, right? The physical density is only like 0.001 or something like this % of everything. So whilst it seems very important to us because we're embodied, that's only a very tiny portion of it. So really where the magic and the work happens is on spirit level, because once you change out there, then the physical, whatever level it's happening at, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, reflects that shift, okay, very quickly. For most people. So what I would say is that's the beauty of it. And it is all inclusive because it's all one, right? It's all like the physical is a reflection of the spirit, right? How you're doing on the physical is a reflection of how you are on spirit level as well. So it's important to know that, and to know that you are clarifying, as you say, Dennis, it's all inclusive, right? So as you're working to confirm remove on the lower level fields, you're also confirming the removal, right, out of all fields. So it's pretty awesome.
Wow. And with that, the word awesome, I think we'll wrap, because that is a perfect word for this segment. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Karen, could you help me? I hear so often when I look at your video or your website, GFC. Exactly what is that?
A GFC is a group frequency calibration, which looks a lot like a guided meditation on a particular topic. And what I'm doing is I'm helping you to remove the distortion patterns of that particular topic. And because you're coming together as a mastermind in a group to connect to pure source even more and to clear the distortion patterns of this particular topic, what happens is a tremendous amount of momentum starts to happen because of the energetic of the entire group. And each individual is able to move faster and ascend higher than they could have on their own.
Welcome everyone to the group frequency calibration for detoxifying your mind. The focus of this GFC will be to not only clear at least the surface level toxic information, but also to give you more distance and awareness of when you need to reset yourselves. Okay, and for some of you, you're going to need more depth, and that will be available on the website as a more in-depth GFC on detoxifying the mind, where we're going to go much deeper in terms of actual clearing, okay, of toxic information, so that your brain can function more clearly and effectively. Okay, so becoming aware of your body, noticing your feet, in particular, the soles of your feet. And as you become aware of the soles of your feet, becoming aware of what they are touching, if they feel warm or cold, just noticing the soles of your feet. And now please become aware of whatever is supporting you and the contact points of your body against whatever is supporting you. Yeah. Good. And now please become aware of your breath. So at first, please just notice your breath without changing it. Just observing how it is for a couple of seconds. And then, when you've taken a couple of seconds to observe your breath, becoming aware of and allowing your breath to deepen. So becoming aware of how full your breath can be, how round it can become. Good. And now please become aware of your surroundings. So as you become aware of your surroundings, becoming aware of the air against your skin. Noticing whether there's movement in the air, its relative humidity, its temperature. Good. And now becoming aware of the smells around you. Now we habituate to smell very quickly, so it's almost like you're going to become aware of your environment anew. So noticing the smells around you, those that are close to you, perhaps the smell of your laundry detergent or your hair product. The ones a little further away, perhaps the smell of dust burning in a heater, or smells coming in from an open window. Just noticing the smells around you. Good. And when you're ready and have noticed your surroundings, please triangulate. So for those of you who are new, triangulating means to become aware of 3 inanimate objects in the space around you. What those inanimate objects are is irrelevant. And as you become aware of these objects, you're going to become aware of the distance between the object and you. So for example, object A could be the dresser. The dresser is about 5.5 feet away from me. And then you notice or feel the distance between the dresser and you. So you're going to do the same thing for objects B and C. You're going to notice first the distance between the object and you, and then feel that distance. And as you do this, what you'll notice is that your sense of where you are in space somehow clarifies and becomes more focused. And for those of you who are quite fast at this already, when you're complete with triangulation, bringing your attention to your solar plexus, the central line between your belly button and the base of your sternum. Your sternum is that big, thick bone in the center of your chest where your ribs meet in front of your body. So between the base of your sternum and your belly button in a straight line. And as you become aware of this space, we're going to just take a nice deep breath together, holding your breath in for a count of 4. And after you've held your breath for this 4 count, you're going to release all the air out of your lungs and hold your breath out, exhaled, for a count of 6. Noticing if it's easier for you to hold your breath in or to hold it out. Noticing how quickly or slowly you chose to count. Just noticing. And we're going to pause here for a while as you complete that breath and as we wait for the mastermind to coalesce. So as we do that, for those of you who are new, please note that I'm working on you at the group and at the subgroup level, and that I often work in silence. So if you don't hear me, please know that I'm still working on you. Usually it's because I'm working at very high frequencies, and if I make physical noise, that only drops the resonance, which doesn't benefit you. I occasionally do make noise, so you'll sometimes hear me hum or yawn or even exhale sharply. And that's just how I release some of the distortion patterns that are stickier or lower in resonance. So one other note is that if I say something that really resonates with you, likely it's yours. And if I say something that you really resist, like it couldn't possibly be you, it's likely yours. So I invite you to remain open and to examine further. Good. So now that the mastermind is coherent, we're going to ask ourselves the following question. How can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? That question again is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself that question, please imagine, sense, feel, or become aware of the space at the very center of your body. And as you become aware of this space, you're going to please imagine or become aware of a brilliance that you either see or feel at its very center. And because you have your attention on it, this brilliance intensifies even more. And very naturally, as it intensifies, it starts to expand outwards through all of your cells, out through your organs, through your bone structure, out through your muscles and your flesh. Radiating even further out through the pores of your skin into the space between your physical body and the external perimeter of your spirit body, which is a sphere at arm's length all around you. Please become very aware of or imagine the brilliance within the sphere. Yeah. And now please become aware of this space all around the sphere. And as you become aware of this infinite space, I'm working on you at spirit level. To increase your frequency resonance, irrespective of where it began. This is one of the most important things we do. The higher your resonance, the more effective this session, because it's coming from the highest resonating order. The faster your integration as well. Good. Bringing your attention now, please, to your solar plexus, which is between your belly button and the base of your sternum. Yeah. Okay. So first, we're just going to release this distortion pattern. For many of you, you kind of are addicted to, or you need the information to feel safe or secure or certain, okay? Or you need it for distraction so that you don't feel your own emotion, okay? So it's like you feel better when other people are kind of with you a little bit in terms of what they're feeling. So all this sort of stuff where you're attached to and either addicted to this information, even though it's not good for you. Okay, and you realize it, so you can realize that eating this particular thing isn't very good for you, but you eat it anyway. Okay, it's the same with information. It's just a different type of consumption. So we're going to release this distortion pattern first. There we go. Good. Mm-hmm. Good. Giving you some distance now between you and the information, meaning the frequency of the information, so you can realize more clearly when it's becoming something that's impacting you negatively. So it doesn't take as much to reset you. Okay? So keeping your attention in that solar plexus. Good. And still in the solar plexus and in the front of your throat, we're going to release this first layer of heaviness. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Bring your attention right to the center point of that solar plexus. Yeah. Helping you to maintain your centeredness or be more aware of your centeredness. Or for some of you, pulling you into it because you're not in it at all. Okay, you don't have centeredness. It's only sort of this spiraling feeling. So helping you with this. So you don't get pulled in as much. Some of you will find that this is not enough, that you'll probably need to do something deeper. Okay? It just depends on who you are. And for some of you, this will be great. Good. Better. Bring your attention now, please, to your xiphoid process, right at the base of your sternum. So you trace that big, thick bone in the center of your chest to its base, right where it becomes fleshy and it's a little sore when you press on it. That's your xiphoid process. So from there, all the way down in a straight line by 3 inches or 7 centimeters towards your belly button. Bring your attention here to clear out your pain body, reset it and integrate it, because your pain body has a memory and it remembers you without these distortions cleared, which makes integration a lot longer. So just taking a few seconds to complete this. Good. This brings us to the end of this session. I look forward to working with you on the next GFC. These GFCs help people release distortion patterns. It's my sincere hope that you benefit profoundly from this series, which is why I spend so much of my personal resources creating these as my gift to the world. If a GFC topic resonates with you, often more work that can be provided in this one GFC is needed to really clear or loosen deeply held distortion patterns in areas that are sticky. Because these patterns are like layers of an onion, usually there are multiple layers to individual topics. Depending on how much of a challenge this topic is for you, it may make sense for you to go deeper than what this session allows. If you feel this is the case for you, please visit sphericalluminosity.com for more targeted support.